this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot, and today we are on another body doubling journey. Well, I do a VR because I am cooking dinner right now and not really feeling like it, so if I'm moving all over the place, that's what I'm doing. So I thought it would be fun to kind of do what I did last time, where there was a VR I wanted to do that was more just me talking, so we're gonna do it all at once. See how it goes. So, today, I wanted to do the deck Fomo challenge, or VR, whatever the heck you want to call it, which I will link the original video below. I know I watched it, but it was so long ago at this point, I cannot remember the name of the channel, so my apologies for that. This is one I've kind of been pondering doing for a bit, but I wanted to kind of collect my thoughts on deck Fomo and things of the such, because as I have talked about before in some other videos, I work really hard for myself to not bring any shame around my deck collecting and my, what do I want to call it, deck buying habits, you know. And when I talk about these things, obviously it's all personal to me, so my habits could easily be something that's not good for another person. So I guess I just want to, I don't know, put that disclaimer out there. Is that the word I'm looking for? That anything I'm talking about, you know, it's really just how things work for me. Oh my goodness, I'm making all the noise. Ah! So, in case I never, you know, made that clear, I'm by no means trying to say, like, this is how it should be done, and, like, this is what's allowed and not allowed. It's more just the personal things I set for myself, and I tend to build a lot of guilt around deck collecting for no good reason. So, I guess that being said, let's get into the tag. The tag, not a challenge, tag. So the first question is, what triggers deck Fomo for you? Now, it's an interesting question. You know, I said I wanted to collect my thoughts on this, yet I didn't really think about the questions beforehand, but it wouldn't be one of my videos if I did, so you're just gonna have to listen to me ramble, I suppose. So what triggers deck Fomo for me? I think the biggest thing, okay, so for me it doesn't come from watching tarot tube or watching flip-throughs and things of that sort. To me, I view watching other people's videos and walkthroughs as just like watching TV almost. In the sense where it's like when you're watching TV, you can see commercials for things and be like, you know, oh, I liked that commercial, I liked what they did there, but like that doesn't mean I'm gonna go and buy it. You know, I'm making a weird analogy here, but that doesn't really cause FOMO for me, because unless I am interested in a deck and seeking out walkthroughs for that reason, I'll just watch walkthroughs that people post as they post them, because I just enjoy hearing people talk about tarot. It is obviously my special interest of sorts, so that doesn't cause deck FOMO. And hearing like people talk about decks they love doesn't really do that. For me, I don't really make that connection in my brain. I think what causes FOMO for me is when I have friends who love a tarot deck, people I talk to a lot, who, especially people who I have similar tastes, similar deck tastes, that'll do it for me. And it's not necessarily even like, okay, so I think the reason I was hesitant to do this tag was because I didn't want, I think there's a negative connotation that I completely understand. people viewing it that way. I don't personally view deck FOMO negatively. That's not, I guess, really how it works for me personally. So that's why, like, I say this before I give my example. So Sandy over at Exploring Tarot, we have very similar deck tastes. So we kind of do it to each other where if I'm looking at one and show it to her, she's also kind of like, ooh, like, yeah, I like that too. Like, that's going on my list too. But that really just happens because we have such similar tastes. So, you know, when I experience deck FOMO, it's that kind of avenue, which is interesting. For example, she just got the Heart of Fairy Tarot. No, Oracle. That Brian Froud one, the out of print one. Rude. Because it's out of print and she showed it to me and I love it! But I will enjoy it through her pictures. So I guess that's an example. That was a long time on question 1. Okay. What is a FOMO deck purchase you regret? I don't... A FOMO deck purchase you regret? I don't know that I have one. Let me think if I can get close to one. I don't think I regret it. You know what, I know I don't regret it, but this is probably as close as I can get, is the Deviant Moon. Because that is one that everyone talks about as being like an amazing deck, which it is, and really good for shadow work specifically. So I got the deck so excited because I was like, I'm gonna use it for shadow work. And that was more in a period of time where I kind of had this idea of like, I need specific imagery to do specific work, which a lot of the times for me, it is genuinely how it goes, but not solely. And I kind of learned that through this deck, I think. So I was so excited about it, and then I got it, tried it, and I was like, this is not helping me connect to shadow work at all. I find these characters so endearing, if not funny. And so I was like cracking up the whole time I was using it. I was like, well, you know, not to say that shadow work can't be light and joyful, but it just wasn't working the way I expected it to. And then I had it so pigeonholed in my brain that I just never got beyond it. But I don't regret it because it did lead me to the Trionfi della Luna, which I absolutely love. And I was able to get that deck and not have that association, and so that's what I love working with. So like the Deviant Moon didn't end up working out for me, and it taught me an interesting lesson about how I view, you know, getting certain decks for certain reasons. I don't do that so much anymore. How do you set limits? Okay, interesting question. So again, this is something that is a challenge for me in the opposite direction, where I shame myself a lot for deck buying. I have to grab something. I didn't want to walk out of the camera, but I really had to do it. We're coming back though. We're coming back, I promise. Okay, I'm back. So, okay, I shame myself in the opposite direction of telling myself that buying decks is bad. Enjoying so many is bad, which is not true for me personally. And so the way I have kind of simultaneously set limits around how much I acquire while sort of finding a way to reason out why shaming myself makes no sense, even though it doesn't to begin with. But, you know, sometimes you gotta do the loopholes. Is the income I make from my Etsy shop, since, you know, it's not my primary form of income. I do work full-time as a librarian, as you can see on my shirt. Do you like it? I like this one. And making crochet bags is something I do for fun, entirely for fun. I decided that my Etsy shop income would create this kind of closed loop for myself. So money I make from there is money that I have told myself can only be spent, you know, on tarot or witchy things or anything related of that sort that I want to get. That Etsy money is not allowed to be used for anything else because, again, if I allowed that, I would never buy something fun for myself and something I really enjoy. I would reason out that like I should be using it for quote-unquote practical things, which I am lucky enough to not have to worry about because of my other job. So that is how I set limits though, really. So if I want a deck and I've got the funds from Etsy to do so, I have a whole separate bank account for it too, so it's really like its own separate thing. If I've got the funds in there, then I can get it. And that's really how, I guess, limits are set for me. How many decks do you have? I know, I can actually tell you an exact number. I keep track on the app Libib. I think it's pretty up to date. It should be. Now we have to do math though. Uh-oh. 65. I think I mathed right. 65 decks in total, but that is not including decks that I have put into my little timeout bin, purgatory bin, only because once something is moved to there, it almost never comes back out. I will let it hang out there for a while sometimes just to make sure, but that's not even something I really need to do. Usually when I'm sure, I'm sure. So it's not including that. So there are some decks that I have set aside, but the decks that I use and are usable to me in my brain, 65. How many decks do you need? Loaded question. I mean, if we're talking me personally, we're going me personally. This is a me day. Because I don't want to try and, you know, get philosophical about, like, in general, the general public, because I cannot speak for the general public. I'm going to talk about me and need. And again, tarot and oracle is very much a special interest for me, and it's something that brings me a lot of joy, and I would never not allow myself to have that. So, that being said, and again, my need for variety, and I'm saying needs because these are needs for me in allowing myself to enjoy a special interest. I'm gonna say 2 tarot decks, 2 oracle decks. So that way I can mix and match, get variety. Yeah, I would say 2 tarot decks, 2 oracle decks if I needed to pare it down to something solid or minimal. Would I? No, but that's the question. And plug in the camera and also actually make sure I was paying attention to what I was doing because I was not. It's gonna be good though. It's gonna end up good, right? Right. Okay, so the next question we just did, how many decks do you need? What is a positive deck purchase from Fomo? I know! The Boo Tarot! Obviously the Boo Tarot. That deck, I entirely bought. No, not entirely. Was influenced to buy when I did from Deck Fomo because I was watching Kyra's live walkthrough. I already knew I wanted it. I already knew I'd somehow end up with it. But I just wanted to see more. So if anything, it more was an affirmation that I would like it. But technically, can you call it Deck Fomo? Yes. But in an absolute positive manner. Because that deck brings me so much joy. I've only had it for what, a week? So much endless joy. Is this the right ingredient? Yes. I get a lot of my recipes mixed up sometimes. especially when they're the same type of cuisine. I kind of get them mixed up, but I think I'm doing the right thing here. It'll be good anyway, right? Yeah. It'll be good. What are your thoughts on the current state of deck FOMO in our community? See, this is a tough one. I just don't really... See, I have some trouble with this question because I recognize where what I'm saying and the struggles I have can be very different from someone else. And so the community as a whole, I don't really think I can speak for, because I think, in my opinion, with the state of deck FOMO, I know my opinion, is that everyone is kind of responsible for themselves. And I don't say that to sound harsh in any way, or that, I don't know, I don't mean it to sound harsh. But when it comes down to it, everyone is responsible for themselves. So I don't know that there really is a state of deck FOMO or like anything toxic going on. I think if there is something you feel toxic about, or something, something you feel is toxic, like if maybe watching walkthroughs is something that is kind of not always great for you because, you know, maybe you do get influenced to buy things you wouldn't necessarily otherwise. I don't know that that speaks to the community as a whole, more so that it does to kind of something personal to explore with that. And I'm hoping I'm not, you know, sounding too harsh by any means. You know, I don't mean that as any sort of attack. I think we all have things to work through when it comes to consumerism, because we're kind of all in this society where a lot of it's just backwards and confusing. So, you know, I've got stuff to work on that I very am open about. I hope you all feel I'm open about, where for me it's the opposite, where I feel a lot of anxiety purchasing anything for myself because it feels irresponsible, when that's not true. You know, I'm allowed to enjoy things and enjoy things within my means, and you know, that's what I've kind of built up for myself. So I don't know that I can say anything about the current state of FOMO in our community, because I think FOMO is a personal thing, and to say that anyone else really kind of influences that, or that there's this like entire state of a community, could be true. I guess I can't currently make sense of it in my brain. I know I watched a lot of these, and I know some things people have said have made sense to me, so I'm not trying to say that like it's not the case at all, but I think the only thing that I can personally speak onto it is that, you know, FOMO is kind of a personal undertaking, I guess you could say, and it's all just about learning what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You know, like in my example, like I said, if you notice that watching walkthroughs kind of affects you negatively, then take notice of that and maybe not watch so many walkthroughs just casually. Where for me, like, that doesn't tend to affect me in any certain way, so I do watch those just kind of like their TV. But for me, I can't really watch many, I have to be conscious of my headspace before I watch a decluttering video, because then that sort of triggers my guilt, and that's not positive for me, or it affects me in a negative way. But, you know, it's not the fault of the person who put out that decluttering video, because, you know, if they're doing that, they clearly think it's a good idea for them, and that's awesome. And it's cool that people share these things. So, you know, I'm probably talking straight out of my butt. And I'm sure there is, like, some sort of universal thing that maybe isn't the greatest, but we like to see... Gosh darn it, the battery died. I'm not... We're just gonna pick up where I left off. I think I was talking about talking straight out of my butt. Yeah, because I'm aware that I like to see rainbows and flowers. But that's how I like to exist. So, anyway, moving on. Oh, we are up to the bonus question. Is there an instance in which you successfully resisted deck FOMO? Resisted deck FOMO. Ooh. Yeah. There's that new Carte Postal deck coming out that looks beautiful, beautiful. And it was this whole thing where, you know, there was a pre-order price and it was a decent, you know, amount off of what they're saying it's going to be listed for afterwards. It's gorgeous, but I just couldn't decide if it was something I really thought I was going to be excited to work with. And I have friends who pre-ordered it, and, you know, I told myself that we will get to see it through them. And so if I'm not positive, we don't need to pre-order it just because of a certain price. So, we resisted it. I entered a giveaway. But I resisted the pre-order, that's what matters. But that was the last question, and my battery's gonna die again. So, I hope you enjoyed this chaos.